Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Monday edition of FSU Weather. Currently, we're sitting at 81 degrees right now with some isolated thunderstorms. Our dew point's at 75, so it feels like 87, but not too bad feeling outside right now. We can see the rain moving through western Tallahassee, also moved through Panama City earlier in the afternoon. There's a line of thunderstorms moving through the western part of the Panhandle, but we're going to zoom out and look at this low right here. This is going to be one of our main talking points for the show today. This is going to move into the Gulf and have a chance to develop into a tropical depression and possibly even a tropical storm later on in the week. But our 3-day forecast shows a lot of rain, 70% chance for Tuesday and Wednesday, 80% for Thursday. Those temperatures are going to start to drop with that rain as well. Our headlines showing us that those scattered storms early in the week moving through because of that low over the Big Bend region. Heavy rainfall also possible midweek in the Gulf of Mexico. And then we're also going to talk about the future of that low pressure system as it approaches the Gulf. But for now, I'm going to pass things off to Zach. He's going to give us a look at the southeast.
We have a lot to talk about in the southeast, but let's start with our temperatures. We're seeing 81 here in Tallahassee, a little bit warmer, 97 over towards New Orleans. For the most part, we're pretty warm as always for this time of year, seeing mid-90s for most of the region. And those dew points, a absolutely disgusting dew point, 75 here in Tallahassee, 76 in Jacksonville. It is feeling very muggy, especially over here in Houston. All that Gulf moisture coming up off the Gulf, making the dew points feel unbearable, very humid conditions, and our heat indexes are not feeling good. Feels like 110 degrees out in Houston, 103 in New Orleans, only 87 here in Tallahassee, but that's because we do have some of those cloud cover because those storms are rolling through right now. And looking at our winds, we're seeing a high pressure system right here in the Gulf. But the big area of interest that we're looking at is we do have some low pressure sitting over Georgia, and that is what's going to be the big story for the rest of the week as we look into a potential storm in the Gulf. So here's those low pressure systems, and that will sort of try to move through, and we may see that potential storm sort of try to form right here around the west side of the peninsula here in the next coming days. So our radar, it has a little bit of rotation, not too much going on right now, but we can see a little bit of those storms. And we can see that rotation. And we can also see that we have a severe thunderstorm warning right here on the border of Alabama and Mississippi there. And we also see some severe thunderstorms over here a little bit west of Dallas, and we can see some of that rain in Dallas there as well. The next 24 hours, we're going to start to see this area of low pressure sort of try to push down, push through the region, try to get to the Gulf so that it can start to form some of that storm that we are talking about and you've been hearing about in the news lately, and we've been getting updates from the National Hurricane Center. But looking into tonight, 75 degrees here in Tallahassee, a little bit warmer. New Orleans 80, Brownsville 80 degrees as well. And looking into tomorrow, New Orleans is going to be seeing some of those partly cloudy skies, 97. El Paso looking at almost 100-degree high tomorrow, so that's something to look out for. Stay hydrated if you're in the Texas region. And I'm going to now start to pass things off to Harrison.
Thank you, Zach. And I'm going to give a look at the first level here as we do have those rainy conditions here across Tallahassee and the Big Bend region of Florida. But right now, the almanac actually just disappeared, but if you could have seen it, it would have showed you that we have been catching up on some rainfall that we've been lacking here in the past, 6 months or so in Tallahassee. We are above normal for the month of July so far. As we look at that satellite and radar across the Big Bend region of Florida, we do have some showers and thunderstorms driving across the western portion of the Tallahassee region here. And as we look at those current conditions, you can see we're in those 80-degree temperature range right where those storms have been. So if you've seen the storms, you've cooled off a little bit. If you haven't seen the storms, you're sitting at 90, Monticello 90, St. Mark's 90 degrees as well. And with that, the heat index, where you've had the rain, you're cooling off a little bit. It doesn't feel quite as hot, 89 in Quincy, 87 in Tallahassee for your heat index, whereas St. Mark's, 104 degrees, so a story of the haves and have-nots there with the heat index. We do have a little bit of the sea breeze that we typically expect across the Tallahassee region, but it is pinned more towards the coast today as we do have a lot more flow out of the north, kind of helping stop that advance that we typically see of the sea breeze. Again, that satellite and radar across the nation where you can see this frontal boundary stalled out across the southeast and this area of low pressure at the surface that has developed from a complex of thunderstorms over the Great Plains, drifted across the Tennessee Valley and is now over the state of Georgia. That is going to drift down into the Gulf of Mexico here over the next couple days and has the potential to develop into a tropical system. Over the next 24 hours, our rain is going to start to die down overnight, but again, as we get into tomorrow, those rain chances are going to come back, and you can start to see the beginnings of that counterclockwise flow that we're going to be expecting here across the Big Bend region as that system does begin to drift southward. Tonight, we're already going to see those temperatures in the mid-70s with those rain chances sticking around in the overnight hours. And tomorrow, once again, those rain chances will be there in the upper 80s and low 90s across most of the region. A few warmer spots here, Bainbridge at 93, Tallahassee at 89, but that's going to be suspect to change depending on where you get the rain and where you don't. This system is being given a 30% chance of developing the next 48 hours by the National Hurricane Center, and across for the next 5 days, we are expecting an 80% chance of tropical cyclone development in the Gulf of Mexico. That storm is expected to begin to drift west. Originally, there was a lot of doubt by the models on where that system would go, but now it's looking like they're kind of keying in on a general drift towards the west, towards Louisiana and Texas. So keep an eye on it here across the Big Bend region, but it is something that we are starting to say is more likely to go off towards Louisiana and Texas. With that, the rainfall potential across the Big Bend region, we are going to see anywhere from 5 to 7 inches to 3 to 4 in South Georgia. And as we look at the week ahead, we are going to see those rain chances sticking around in our highs in the upper 80s for the most part, and not a whole lot of relief at night. But now I'm going to pass things off to Tyler, where he's going to give you a look at the national.
Thanks, Harrison. It's been hot here in Florida, hot in the southeast, and pretty hot for the rest of the country as well. A little bit cooler on the west coast, especially in San Francisco. They're at 61 degrees right now. The rest of the west coast sitting in the mid-70s. And as usual, Phoenix is our hot spot at 103 degrees. Most of the east coast is sitting in the upper 70s and the 80s. And then our dew points, pretty much, I've been saying this for the past 2 weeks, but the eastern side of the country is always pretty moist this time of year. Very muggy conditions, not very great outside. And as you move towards the west, usually right here on the western part of Texas is where it starts to dry up. So it's still hot in a lot of these regions, but it doesn't feel super bad outside because it's drier. The mugginess kind of makes it feel unbearable. And then the low pressure system here in Tallahassee, that's what we've been talking about a lot, but there's also been some interesting things happening in the northern part of the country. This low pressure system is bringing severe weather for North Dakota and South Dakota and a couple of other states around it as well. And also this dry line here, as I alluded to just before, bringing dry conditions for the west, moist conditions for the east. And our storm outlook shows that we have a enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms in North Dakota right now, especially Bismarck. That's a 3 out of 5 risk. And then as we move towards the yellow regions, that's 2 out of 5 risk. The darker green is a 1 out of 5, and then as you get towards the lighter green, that's just chances these thunderstorms pop up that are not quite as severe in nature. As we look at the radar, we can see this line of thunderstorms moving through right now. Actually have a severe thunderstorm warning as we speak, and then also in Omaha as well, and then these severe thunderstorm watches are in the pink for most of North Dakota, also in Montana and Colorado Wyoming, and then Nebraska, and also to the eastern part of Colorado. And then flood alerts, flash flood watches in Bismarck. That dark red right here and right there, that's a flash flood warning. So if you're in those areas, make sure that you take the proper precautions. And as we look at tomorrow, the severe weather is going to start to die down a little bit, only a slight risk for just south of Rapid City. The rest of our northern regions there dropping the risk considerably for those severe storms. As we look at the southeast, see a lot of scattered thunderstorms, nothing too organized though, but in Louisiana and Texas we're having heat advisories until we get into those nighttime hours when the sun finally starts to set. And then looking at the next 24 hours, you're going to see a lot of scattered rain all throughout the country. But right here is where we have the organized thunderstorms finally going to start to die out as we get into the morning. But they'll start to redevelop in the afternoon and bring those risks for South Dakota as we get through to the evening. And then for tonight's forecast, looking at 80 in New Orleans and much of the southeast going to be in the mid-70s. As we move westward, going to be a little bit cooler tonight. And then for tomorrow's forecast during the day, very hot for the east and then a little bit better for the west, a little bit cooler, except Phoenix going to be 106, hot as usual. But now I'm going to go head to the desk with Harrison, and we're going to talk about a tropical cyclone that could possibly form.
Yeah, we are. And not just that, but we're getting to that time of year here in Tallahassee. Obviously, last year we had Hurricane Michael that we had to be prepared for. So it's also just a good time in general to prepare for hurricane season. I mean, this is like kind of the first little warning that the Atlantic's given off maybe that we're going to have some systems this year.
Yeah, and this low pressure system that we're looking at actually came from a thunderstorm complex over the Great Plains region.
Yeah, and this isn't unheard of. I mean, it's happened before, but it is certainly more rare. So over the Great Plains, drifts southeast, and then eventually gets over those warm Gulf waters. I mean, we're looking at temperatures in the Gulf 87, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are very warm waters. Typically, tropical cyclones only need about 80 degrees Fahrenheit to develop. So
yeah, and that's exactly where we're expecting it to go. We're expecting it to go into the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico, just below the Panhandle, and then that's when it's going to start drifting westward.
Correct. And at first, the models weren't exactly sure on where the storm would go, but since then, we're kind of developing a little more confidence in that general westward track towards Texas and Louisiana here. But with that, the general consensus here is that for the Tallahassee region, we are going to be expecting a lot more rain than we've been seeing,
Yep.
and possibly some windier conditions as well.
Yep. And also, even though we're seeing it's drifting towards Texas and Louisiana right now, if you're on the Gulf Coast, you want to be careful because you never know exactly what these tropical systems are going to do. So if you're in states such as Mississippi and Alabama, you want to keep a close watch on what's happening.
Right, and another good thing to keep in mind is that with tropical cyclones, they have far wide-reaching effects. Outside of just the typical cone that we see and the National Hurricane Center puts out. I mean, a lot of effects can happen outside of that. So if you're anywhere along the northern Gulf Coast, it would be good to go ahead and keep an eye on that. But
Yep.
for now, we're going to go ahead and send things back on out to the wall where Zach's going to give you the last local.
So looking live out there at the Doak Campbell Stadium, Cam, we're seeing a lot of cloudy conditions out there, some storms trying to roll through a little bit earlier whenever I was walking into the studio this afternoon. Some spotty showers around most of the area. Currently, we are sitting at 81 degrees. We have those isolated thunderstorms, so a few thunderstorms here, a few thunderstorms there. Dew point of 75. That it's feeling like 87 degrees right now out here outside at Doak Campbell Stadium. So we can see some of these showers starting to try to push through, a lot of them more to our west and to our south. A few little splashes around the Tallahassee area right here. It looks like we might have this one little shower trying to creep through the area to our north that has a little bit of lightning. So if you are outside and start to hear that thunder, you might want to head indoors there because there is some lightning associated with that shower. So 81 degrees right here in Tallahassee with those thunderstorms. Camilla, not seeing those thunderstorms, seeing a little bit more sun, 89 degrees. Down towards Apalachicola, we're seeing sunny skies, 91 degrees there. And our dew points, we're seeing 75 dew point in Tallahassee, 78 in St. Mark's, Sumatra 79. So these dew points are not feeling very good. That means we're having a lot of humid air, which is making our heat index values feel a little bit more than what the actual temperature is. We are feeling cooler in Tallahassee just because we do have those cloudy skies right now, 87 degrees here, but down towards the coast where they have that high dew point, St. Mark's feeling like 104 there, 104 degrees, and Apalachicola 100 degrees feels like temperature as well. And our wind speeds, we can see the wind sort of trying to push from the west towards the east. We're seeing 6 miles per hour here. Down towards the coast a lot more, 15 miles per hour out of the west down at Apalachicola. And the satellite is showing we're seeing these low pressure systems right here, and that's sort of going to be what the big story is over these next few days. So what's going to happen is these are going to try to sort of creep a little bit more southward, and then this is where we're going to see maybe some development right here a little bit on the west side of the peninsula, and then as that develops, we could see we'll start to see some rotation, and the models are suggesting that we could see potentially a tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm head towards the Texas area in the next couple of days. So the next 24 hours for Tallahassee, we're going to continue to see those showers start to creep through. We see some showers to our north that might try to move through a little bit. And into the early morning hours, that's going to clear out. We're going to be waking up to partly cloudy skies at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And into the afternoon, we can expect the same pattern, typical summertime weather, those storms trying to creep through and hang around through the rest of the evening tomorrow. And for tonight's forecast, we're going to see a low of 75. Those storms are going to stick around. 60% chance of rain. The storms are going to be early, but then they're going to try to push out of the area. And tomorrow we're going to see a high of 92. The rain's going to come back. 70% chance of rain tomorrow. Showers likely after 2 p.m. Just that typical summer pattern there. And your Gulf forecast for tomorrow, we're going to see 8 o'clock waking up to 77 degrees, but as we continue through the day, it's going to get warmer and those rain chances are going to continue to grow. 92 as our high for tomorrow. And we are talking about that area of pressure that's going to be moving through, and it's going to try to push through Texas. And looking at the week ahead, we see the rain chances really continue to build up into the remaining of the week. 80% chance on Thursday, 70% chance on Saturday, and we're going to continue to see the temperatures grow.